Transporter who's transporting food is expected to have a license for transporting food.
Okay.
A warehouse which is storing food, it needs to have an FSSAI license for storing the food.
Okay.
And of course, a retailer needs to have, a manufacturer needs to have, everybody needs
So even your Kirana store needs to have
an FSSAI license.
Okay.
Yes.
Example, let's say you took an example of poha. Does the regulation also decide or describe what kind of pesticide could be used on, or insecticide could be used on the rice itself? Or is that part of the regulation?
So what the regulation says is what are the pesticides that are not permitted to be there. So so in the product definition, they will tell you that these are the things you need to test for. That list is derived from the agricultural practices. So we typically know that if it is rice, then these are the pesticides that are used. And there is a residual limit that is specified for each of them. And your product should have residual limits that are lower than what the regulation specifies.
And that testing would happen at what stage?
That testing is expected to, unfortunately, commodities are not covered.
Okay.
So if you go to APMC yard, buy rice, it will not happen.
Understand.
But as soon as you start packaging it, so if you package rice as it is, the expectation is that that rice that comes to your from then onwards should meet that requirement. Do we test it? That is debatable. Should you test it? Yes. And if we start there, then everything that gets built onwards. So if your rice is pesticide free, and your so then your poha will automatically end up being pesticide free, because that's the major. So whatever else you are adding, right? So if your vegetables are pesticide free, that you are adding, your oil is pesticide free, which goes back to if your oil seeds were pesticide free. So if all the ingredients were pesticide free, then in the supply chain, it'll kind of.
But all of this is self-enforced, right? I mean, nobody is actually.
No, FSSAI does pick up samples. So they can pick up samples from the market. They do once in a while. If there are complaints, they do. And like I said, they have the usual requirement of sample pickup as well. So that's also in the regulation, saying they have to pick up so many samples per month, per year, etc. So they do that. There are approved laboratories. Most states have an NABL accredited laboratory that is run by FSSAI, or they will have an empaneled lab where they send all these products for testing. And if found not meeting the parameters, then it goes through the process of.
So two questions about FSSAI. One, is that the only body which regulates food, and what is covered by FSSAI? What can they regulate?
Okay. So in India, FSSAI is the only body that regulates food. And it was created precisely for this reason. Because earlier there were different bodies, like oil was regulated separately and milk was regulated separately, and commodities were regulated separately, and there was PFA. So there was a lot of confusion about who was controlling what. So FSSAI was created to put all of that, all food under one umbrella. And what is covered? Every aspect of food. So basically, right from packaging. So as soon as you start processing, like I said, post-harvest, as soon as it converts its form, from then on, FSSAI can regulate the product, including storage and transport.
So whatever goes in a pack, is that a requirement? Does it have to go in a pack or a bottle?
So if it is sold loose, that is agricultural commodity, right? That is outside. But as soon as it gets packaged, it is now under FSSAI. So it could be for, so like I said, not just manufacturing, but even transport. So a transporter who's transporting food is expected to have a license for transporting food. A warehouse which is storing food, it needs to have an FSSAI license for storing the food. And of course, a retailer needs to have, a manufacturer needs to have, everybody needs.
So even your Kirana store needs to have
an FSSAI license. Yes.
I think most of us probably don't even know that or aware of that.
Yeah. So the other thing is, it should also display the license visible to the customer.
Okay.
So it should be in a place which should be visible to the customer.
Interesting. Okay. And are health supplements like your vitamin D's or vitamins or multivitamins and maybe other health supplements and Ayurveda products, are they also part of this?
So Ayurveda is not.
Okay.
Ayurvedic is covered under the Ayush license,
Okay.
which is a different mechanism.
Okay.
But FSSAI now has nutraceutical as a category.
Okay.
So if it's a nutraceutical product, over-the-counter vitamin supplements, could also be herbs, could be other products. So they have a list of approved things that you could sell as nutraceuticals.
Okay.
And as long as it is within that, it falls under the nutraceutical category, which comes under FSSAI.
So food, so whatever you consume is either food, a
Correct.
nutraceutical, or an Ayurvedic supplement. Anything else which we probably not
medicines are the other ones which comes
the
under
pharma,
the pharma comes outside.
Okay.
But yeah, the other two.
But typical things like pudina probably will fall under Ayurvedic.
They fall under Ayurvedic.
Okay.
Or the manufacturer has to choose where they want to pick it up. It's more likely to fall under the Ayurveda than on nutraceutical.
So anybody who started to, let's say, set up a factory to make food or anything, for example, let's say somebody just picking up seeds, mixing it and selling it as a product, do they need to get a FSSAI license?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. It could be, let's say, I don't know if you're hinting at some of the products which like seeds they mix, right? So which is a trail mix or something.
Yes, trail mix which is sold in your plastic packs and we don't even know who the manufacturer is sometimes.
Correct. Yeah, so trail mixes need to have. So
correct.
If it is, so any product, even if it's a pure single ingredient product like we call it, the labeling requirements are relaxed for single ingredient. So like if you pack rice, then you don't have to put nutritional information. Because it is not giving you any additional value.
Understood.
But if you are mixing even two things, then you need to declare that. Saying, so you need to have a license for sure. And then you need to declare.
Is it just a registration or the license as well?
So it depends on your model. So there are various things. So a registration is if you have a turnover less than 12 lakhs per year, that is when you qualify for registration.
Understood.
If you've crossed 12 lakhs, you are a state license. If you are under certain categories, like if you're doing nutraceutical, you have to get a central license. You cannot do it under state. Similarly for e-commerce, if you're doing e-commerce, you're selling it on e-commerce, then you have to do a central license. If you exceed a certain turnover, you have to get a central license.
But these are all FSSAI licenses?
These are all FSSAI. FSSAI is 3 types. So registration, a state license and a central license. Based on your nature of business, or they call it as KOB, kind of business, you could fall under any of these. Or sometimes based on categories as well. So you could fall under any of these. Based on the volume of your transaction, you could fall under any of these.
So you said labeling requirement differs if it's a single ingredient versus a mixed ingredient. Anything, if you mix more than 2 ingredients, so like say if I mix salt, if I add salt as well to something, does it qualify as a double ingredient?
Yes. It's not a single ingredient product. So you have to declare that you have to have an ingredient list in which you say that you have X and salt. And you'll have to put a nutrition table which declares how much salt is there. And then now your product needs to have a declaration saying, so much fat, so much carbs, so much protein, so much kilocalories, what is your serving size, RDA, all of that needs to be specified.
Interesting.